This is the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast with Cass Midgley.
We interview people you don't know about a subject no one wants to talk about. We hope to encourage people in the process of deconstructing their faith and help curb the loneliness that accompanies it. We think the world is a better place when more people live by sight, not by faith. Please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, you can support us monetarily in two easy ways. You can pledge
$1 million
or more through Patreon. That's patreon.com/EA podcast. Or leave a lump sum donation through PayPal at our website, everyone'sagnostic.com. The smallest contribution is greatly appreciated.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 220 of the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast.
Come on over here, Ron. Let me show you what I'm doing. Taking advantage of some of the time off to add a whole new wing on here. I'm going to rip these walls out and, of course, rewire it.
Yeah, you're going to make it all 220?
Yeah, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
I'm Cass Midgley. I'm going to die. A big thanks to each and every one of our Patreon and PayPal supporters. My guest today is Casper Rigsby. I had Casper on back on episode 153, and being how he lives right here in Murfreesboro, I invited him over for a little chat about the state of the union and the subject of identity. Casper Rigsby is a prolific blogger and has personally published 7 books, including his best-selling title, The Bible in a Nutshell. His work ranges from comedic blasphemy to philosophical inquiry and discourse. He was also nominated in 2015 for the Hitchens Prize, which recognizes an author or journalist whose work reflects a commitment to free expression and inquiry, a range and depth of intellect, and a willingness to pursue the truth without regard to personal or professional consequence, unquote. To me, he's a young man, probably around 30, with a strong mind, a big heart, and a feral determination to thrive. He and I have very different histories. I don't know much about this because he doesn't talk about it, but I know that he served time in prison and was involved in white supremacy. Perhaps that's why he is now so vehemently against it. I love Casper, and I think you'll gain something from spending 45 minutes with him. Before we get into my talk with Casper, I want to share with you a dialogue that I had with a listener this week. Her name is Leisha, and she writes, "Hi, Cass. I really loved and appreciated the episode with David Hayward. My deconstruction began almost 2 years ago when I lost my 21-year-old daughter in a tragic UTV accident in which she was a passenger. She was home for the weekend from her Air Force duty station in South Carolina. I lost a husband at age 24 that was very difficult, but losing my daughter has destroyed my foundation and all that I knew. I was a student pastor at the time and had been an active devout Christian for 3 years. A short time, but I was all in. I went from being a believer to a disciple very quickly. I had grown up knowing, quote-unquote, that there was a God, and I was supposed to get right with him one day. And so finally I did. I joined the church and served with all that I had to give. 3 years later, on a Sunday, my best friend, part of my everything, was taken from me. The night we lost Morgan, my faith began to collapse. Where was God when I prayed for my child to survive? Where was he when I was lying on the floor day in and day out in agony, wishing for my breath to escape my body and never return? Where was he when all the people abandoned me and my family? Where was he in all of my questions and pleadings? Nowhere, I learned. I learned the night of the accident that prayer doesn't work. It's nothing but mere words to a sky. Soon after, within weeks, the pastor informed me I needed to be at church so people could love me. I guess meeting me in my brokenness at my home was too much. I needed to be in their comfort zone, and I couldn't comply. The church, the people were soon gone. Before the casseroles could get cold, actually. It was then that I learned that the Holy Spirit was a lie. People aren't changed by anything. They are the same people they've always been. That was step 2 in my deconstruction. Step 3 was realizing that when I stopped brainwashing myself with singing songs, Bible reading and teaching, and Sunday services, suddenly God was gone. I never felt Him after I lost my child. Not one time in my pleading, begging, and praying for something, anything, did I get a reassurance that my child was in heaven, that God didn't do this, He was good, or any of the stuff I needed. I learned it was because He was never there. It was all in my head. Step 4 was when I enrolled at university to pursue the undergraduate degree my daughter was in process of getting. I had my children young, so I put off getting my degree to raise them and work. I wanted to get this degree to honor her. As I began taking classes at a Christian university of all things, I began to learn about the early church and its beginnings in a Western civilization class. This added to my newly formed belief that the church and religion were nothing more than man-made ways to handle the existential issues of life. Well, that and a way to rob men of their money and time. I also began exploring on the internet and in books all the things I had closed my mind to keep from being of this world when I was a believer. Books, articles, websites, etc., that were filled with rational information helped me see that what I was learning and feeling was legitimate. I soon left the Christian university and transferred to the university my daughter attended before joining the Air Force. I'm in my sophomore year there now. I say all this to give some background as to why I related to this episode with David Hayward so much. In addition to my husband and I losing our daughter, we lost our faith. Our complete beings were attacked, and therefore so was our marriage. It has definitely been hard, with both of those weights attacking it from all angles. We are fighting, though. We have 16 years together, and we both believe it's worth the uphill climb. Some days are really hard. Neither of us is the same person, and we're having to relearn each other and grieve and help the other grieve. Help our surviving daughter deal with PTSD, who was at the accident that took her sister, and create new meaning, all the while doing the necessary tasks that life demands. I've related to many of your guests, and I'm thankful for the echo chamber and think tank that you provide with this podcast. Validation is a very important thing for humans in order to feel not alone and isolated, which is very easy to do in a situation such as ours. I need it in the loss of my child and grief, and I need it in the loss of God and the grief that brings. Thank you for your wisdom and for sharing your own journey as well as those of your guests. What a great way to create meaning in your life, helping us who are new on the journey. Much love to you, Cass. Leisha. So I wrote her back and I added her to the support group on Facebook and referred her to episode 207 on death and 216 on grief. She wrote back, "Thank you for adding me to the group and for sharing those episodes. I will most definitely be listening. I'm grateful for this community. Damn, this is a lonely place, especially where I live, rural, Bible-loving, preacher-growing, conservative Sweet Home, Alabama. Ugh. I love this place, but finding like-minded people is extremely difficult. Online communities and support are all I have, with the exception of my support group for bereaved parents, which is full of people who believe they will see their child in heaven someday. My daughter lived life fully and on the edge, never scared of anything. I was always fearful of losing her, and then I did. And the Christians wanted me to believe it was God's plan. Well, the hell with that, and their God. What an asshole. I'd rather accept that he's not there than think that he chose, caused, or planned this for her and I. So I wrote back, yep, that God can exist, and even if he did, I'd never bow the knee to him. I've believed for some time now that atheism is the best practice of theism, because by ignoring God, I find myself looking at my fellow humans instead of heavenward. I find I care more, feel more, trust more, live more, and that's what a good God would be pleased with. Besides, he, she, or it has to be ineffable, unfathomable, and unimaginable. And so it's the fool who says, I know God, what he likes, dislikes, approves, disapproves, etc. I know immediately I'm dealing with an arrogant, power-loving, insecure, scared, delusional person, and I turn tail and run. Agnostic atheism produces the best human being, morally and ethically, in my opinion. So Alicia writes back, I agree. I find myself more caring and compassionate without religion. I'm a good person, and I want to do good and be altruistic in nature because I know other humans love, suffer, and hurt just as I do. I don't need a crutch or a moral, law-giving God to make me do good or be good, and I have realized that I haven't turned into a new person so much, but really just rediscovered who I was the whole time. I am my own agent, my own judge and forgiver, my own support and my own means creator. It's very freeing. I've had a couple of people see a few tweets that I've shared that had atheistic ideas or views, and they've replied with, quote, "This makes me sad," unquote. And I reply back with, don't be sad. If there is any area of my life that I actually feel good about, it's this one. I'm good there. Yes, it's been a process and a difficult one, but one that's grown and stretched me so much. Sometimes my brain is just like, holy shit, stop with the information. And my husband and daughter probably say the same thing. I just wish I could have discovered it all without losing my daughter. I'm a lot like you, I think, in the fact that my wheels are always turning. My mind is always inquiring, digging, grasping, pondering, contemplating, and philosophizing. It's exhausting, but I think I would go crazy if I never got any of it out. Leisha. Secondly, before we get into our talk with Casper, I've been fascinated with identity, and it's what I wanted to talk to Casper about. And I want to talk about it in a dialectic way. On one hand, the search for who am I, this type of identity crisis, is often overplayed. Friend and former guest of the podcast, Tony Woodall, writes, 99% of becoming who you really are is turning loose of who you think you're supposed to be, unquote. And I like that. Mark Manson, the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, writes, quote, "My recommendation, don't be special. Don't be unique. Redefine your metrics in mundane and broad ways. Choose to measure yourself not as a rising star or an undiscovered genius. Also, choose to measure yourself not as some horrible victim or dismal failure. Instead, measure yourself by more mundane identities: a student, a partner, a friend, a creator. The narrower and rarer the identity you choose for yourself, the more everything will seem to threaten you. For that reason, define yourself in the simplest and most ordinary ways possible. This often means giving up some grandiose ideas about yourself, that you're uniquely intelligent or spectacularly talented or intimidatingly attractive or especially victimized in other ways people could never imagine. This means giving up your sense of entitlement and your belief that you're somehow owed something by this world," unquote. My point here is that sometimes we pursue identity a little too hard, like it's something to lift us out of normalcy, or that we feel so insecure about ourselves or inferior to others that we have to find something to elevate ourselves above them, above others. On the other hand, there are identities that are imposed on us that either the culture or just reality have given us, namely skin color or ethnicity or gender or orientation. What if you're Hispanic in America? What if you're Arab American or African American? What if you're gay or trans? Why does the culture simultaneously hold those identities in contempt while claiming to not see them? People have claimed to be colorblind when it comes to race, but what if people of color don't want to be invisible? Here's some James Baldwin quotes on the subject. Quote, "An identity would seem to be arrived at by the way in which the person faces and uses his experience. If you're treated a certain way, you become a certain kind of person." Unquote. I'm a firm believer in like breeds like when it comes to treatment of others. If a teacher conveys respect to his or her students, the students are more likely to return that respect. When parents confer love to their children, those children are more likely to be loving to their peers. And the opposite is true of hateful or judgmental parents. The children will turn out hateful and judgmental. Again, James Baldwin on the subject, quote, "I imagine one of the reasons people cling to their hates so stubbornly is because they sense once hate is gone, they will be forced to deal with pain." Unquote. And the sneaky thing about bigotry, judgment, racism, or hatred is that often the people that wield these attitudes don't think of themselves as such. Baldwin says, quote, "We have all had the experience of finding that our reactions and perhaps even our deeds have denied beliefs we thought were ours." Unquote. All this to say that in this world, we're all trying to find our place. Where do we contribute? Where do my gifts shine and help others? How do I contribute to the betterment of things? But if those very things which make me me are stigmatized negatively by the culture, how will I ever be given a chance to prove myself virtuous? Pigeonholing people as such and such because of something about them is so goddamn presumptuous, narrow, and ignorant of how complicated we are as humans. Atheists must be immoral. Polyamorists must be slutty. Christians must be judgmental. Blacks must be lazy freeloaders of welfare. Rednecks must be stupid. Arabs must be anti-freedom. Women must be oversensitive, etc. How fucking lazy is it for someone to assume because someone is blank, they must be blank? We might have to think. We might have to give each person we meet a clean slate. We might have to honor the identity of their ethnicity, orientation, religion, or occupation while stopping before broad-brushing all people who share those identities. God damn it, we're complicated. Nothing about this is simple. Nothing about sharing space with other human beings is easy, even if it's your own family. Agent Smith is an artificial intelligence character in the Matrix films who's the primary antagonist. He hates humans. He reminds me of the biblical mindset that hates humanity and wants something better, like heaven or the kingdom of God coming on earth. It's not the only biblical mindset, but it is the primary one, in my opinion. It also resembles racism or any other bigotry that elevates itself to superiority over reality. These are no-sayers, mind you, wishing that things were different. Here's a clip from The Matrix.
I'm going to be honest with you. I hate this place, this zoo, this prison, this reality, whatever you want to call it. I can't stand it any longer. It's the smell, if there is such a thing. I feel saturated by it. I can taste your stink. And every time I do, I fear that I've somehow been infected by it. It's repulsive, isn't it? I must get out of here. I must get free.
In this next clip, Agent Smith is fighting Neo, the protagonist in the series, and he does not understand why Neo cares, why he keeps getting back up to fight. Like my guest today, and myself, and many of you, if not all of us, we care. You wouldn't be listening to this if you didn't. You get out of bed every day because you have found some meaning and purpose in this godless world. You haven't let naturalism infect you with complete nihilism. Why? Well, that's the question Agent Smith poses here.
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why? Why do you do it? Why? Why get up? Why keep fighting? You believe you're fighting for something, for more than your survival? Can you tell me what it is? Do you even know? Is it freedom or truth? Perhaps peace? Could it be for love? Illusions, Mr. Anderson, vagaries of perception. Temporary constructs of a feeble human intellect trying desperately to justify an existence that is without meaning or purpose. And all of them as artificial as the Matrix itself. Although only a human mind could invent something as insipid as love. You must be able to see it, Mr. Anderson. You must know it by now. You can't win. It's pointless to keep fighting. Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?
Because I choose to.
My interview today is political in nature. You may wonder how that fits into the deconversion theme of this podcast. Well, it doesn't really, but I'm concerned about the future of this country because I know that all empires eventually fall, and they've fallen for the very reasons that are happening today. And you know, what the fuck? Why not try to stop that? Why not resist? And this is my small way of resisting. I'm going to play a clip from the 1970 movie Catch-22. The history of Catch-22 comes from the military. The novel the movie is based on looks into the experience of airmen and pilots who attempt to maintain their sanity while fulfilling their service requirements so that they can return home. While most crews are rotated out after 25 missions, in the novel the minimum number of missions is eventually raised to an unattainable 80 missions. Compliance with this insane number invokes Regulation 22, for which there is a catch. An airman would have to be crazy to fly more than 25 missions, and if he were crazy, he would be unfit to fly and could get sent home. Yet, if an airman would refuse to fly more missions, this would indicate that he is in fact sane, which would mean that he'd be fit to fly more missions and not be released to go home. Hence the name Catch-22. In this scene that I'm about to play, an American soldier, played by Art Garfunkel, gets into a talk with an old Italian owner of a whorehouse where the future of America is in question.
You see, Italy is a very poor, weak country. And that is what makes us so strong. Strong enough to survive this war and still be in existence long after your country has been destroyed.
What are you talking about? America is not going to be destroyed.
Never.
Well?
Rome was destroyed. Greece was destroyed. Persia was destroyed. Spain was destroyed. All great countries are destroyed. Why not yours? How much longer do you think your country will last? Forever?
Well, forever is a long time, I guess.
Very long.
Now here's the rub. By wanting America to be great again, we have to believe that we're superior. We know Trump believes in eugenics, which is the science of improving a human population by controlled breeding to increase the occurrence of desirable, heritable characteristics. Developed largely by Francis Galton as a method of improving the human race, it fell into disfavor only after the perversion of its doctrines by the Nazis. But it sounds like something Agent Smith would endorse, doesn't it? The catch is, wishing things were better is a trap. In some ways, those of us who are opposing Trump and this racist agenda towards greatness, quote unquote, we are espousing normalness, humanness, reality, saying yes to what is. What Casper and I talk about today is not wishing things were different, but the opposite. It's calling down those who wish things were different. Christians wish it, Nazis wish it, Trump wishes it, uber-wealthy one-percenters wish it. People want to live forever. People want life with no pain. They want a skinnier waist, a sharper nose. They want things out of their control to be different. Contrast that with people who want to stop unnecessary shit, like cancer, or starvation, or climate change. They've said, or I should say we've said, yes, cancer is upon us, and yes, we can stop it, or die trying. If you want to make the world a better place while embracing the realities of our complexities as a species, namely our different skin colors, our different cultures, beliefs, orientations, and religions, then you are simultaneously a yes-sayer and a world changer. If you want to make things better by denying reality and the complexities of being human, then you're a lazy, fearful coward in the line of Agent Smith and Donald fucking Trump.
Check 1, 2. We taped this conversation on August 19th, 2018. The intro music is by Dave Weckl called Just Groove Me. The segue music behind us is called We Care a Lot by Faith No More. I'm sitting out on Dave Warnock's balcony finishing up this edit. And there's a concert going on in Vanderbilt across the way. And there's all kinds of noises down on the street. Hope you enjoy this talk with Casper Rigsby. He's a little rough around the edges, but he's got a huge heart. So anyway, here's my talk with Casper. And let's be yes-sayers to what is.
So the last time you were on, I don't remember when it was, but you'd written like 6 books, and you still writing?
Off and on. I've actually shifted focus a lot. I kind of got tired of just dealing with religion. I still like argue over fundamentalism and shit and fight fundamentalism, but religion as a whole, I just I don't care anymore.
Right. There is a place where we're just like, oh, it's such a worn out subject, especially since, like I said on the porch just now, it's much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically you're debating whether the unicorn's horn spirals left to right or right to left.
Yeah, my only interest in it at this point is if you're trying to use it to harm other people or deny them their rights or something along those lines. Outside of that, I just don't give a shit what anybody believes anymore. It doesn't matter. Believe in whatever you want as long as you don't use it to hurt anybody or try to deny them the same things that you want in life. Then I don't care.
Well, you're pushing back against theocracy, I know. I mean, because anytime they're trying to legislate God's word over people that don't adhere to God's word, that's an encroachment. You're out of bounds.
Yeah, yeah. I have conversations with friends and people on Facebook and stuff, but as far as my writing goes, I really wanted to shift focus and start writing some fiction and just doing some other things.
How's that gone? Because fiction's tough, right?
It is. It's difficult to let a story write itself. Mm-hmm. You want to shape it and mold it, and then you realize that you're ruining it. You're making it something that it's not supposed to be. So you have to really let the story flow and let the characters tell the story as they develop.
Yeah.
So it's
nuanced.
I'm happy if I get 2 to 3 pages written. Sometimes I'm like, wow, that's something. I've progressed.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was doing my writing for the religious stuff, this is the stuff that's on the top of my head.
Yeah.
So none of that. I could sit there and just write those books.
And that's how you did write the books, is you talked into your phone or whatever and then converted it to text.
Yeah. Yeah, I used speech to text and then did some editing work on it. And that was just really quick. But telling a story as far as fiction goes, it's even writing short stories, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Let me get him out of here.
Oh, he's fine.
You all right? Okay. My cat is really wanting to express affection to Casper. It's a good thing you're not allergic. I think Bob was allergic, and so I tried to keep him out of here when Bob was here.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bob, he's up in Madison.
Yeah, I've been watching him on Facebook, enjoying his retirement. That's good for him.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's having a good life.
I miss him. He's a good guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So what I contacted you about, for one thing, I do follow you. I mean, not religiously or like go to your site, but when I see your posts, I'm almost always like, damn, your perspective. I think when people come along like yourself and they say something into the fog of what is otherwise a mysterious, it's hard to wrap your head around this subject, and people are debating right and left, and the reason that it's a hot topic is because it is complicated, and then somebody comes along and says a few sentences that just slices right to the crux, and that, I think, is one of your gifts.
Well, I hope that's a compliment, and I do appreciate it.
It's a compliment, yeah.
I don't think we have time to mince words or ideas at this point. We are so entrenched and just
we're in trouble.
Yeah, it's bad, and it's worse than people want to let on or accept, and it's gonna get worse if people don't wake up now. So this isn't a time where we can really just wear kid gloves with anybody. It's not gonna work.
Well, Casper, you don't sound like you're a very good compartmentalizer.
No, I don't think any of us really are, and I think when you try to, then you lose a lot of your integrity.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't try to separate who you are from the things you say and do,
or the reality that you're encountering. That's where I think it shows up most. Is you're talking about times are ominous, or the time is of the essence. We don't have time to mince words, like you said. What specifically are you talking about? The Trump presidency, or just the religious right, or what's going on?
I feel humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
We focus because for us in specific, we're U.S. citizens. So we're focused on the Trump presidency and the harm coming from things that he's doing, and the whole breakdown of our democratic structure. And I don't necessarily agree with our government structure, but at the same time, like, that's what we have. And wow, this just flies in the face of it. It is better than so many other things. So I would much prefer not to see everything fall apart completely.
But you're saying, when you say this, it's humanity in general. It's not just the American bubble here. But what do you mean by that? Are we polluting? Are we climate change? What's the thing that troubles you?
Climate change is one thing, but then there's income inequality. There's resource inequality. There's just so many issues that affect all of humanity. They affect humanity as a whole, because our entire economic structure and our everything is based around the shit we've done so far, and a lot of it has not put focus on humanity.
Yeah.
It's put focus on a short-term goal of wealthy people getting really fucking wealthy.
Right.
And owning everything.
Right. I think there's a disconnect there where people don't feel connected to each other. They don't feel responsible for each other. It's me, and I'm going to take mine, and if I have to step on you to get it, so be it, because life is short, and I'm scared to death, and I'm insecure, and I got to have a new car.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that has to do with consumerism and the idea that we're all supposed to be competing with each other, and that the only way we're going to advance is through harsh competition that can really hurt the other people, and that's not the case. We see advancements in science where there is competitiveness between scientists. We don't see like one group of people being
exploited or at the expense of another.
Yeah, or injured by the hard work of another. It's a cooperative thing. And,
Sure.
and when you advance, you don't hurt others in your advancement, and that's what we should look for in society as a whole. And if we're going to think in the long term at all, and I don't think we have been.
No, we're very myopic.
Yeah, as a society in the U.S., as all of our societies throughout history, we have not viewed the long term.
No.
I think religion gave us an out for a lot of that, and just telling people, hey, man, you're going to get another life someday, so don't worry about that shit.
New heaven and new earth, God's going to take care of it. God's in control.
And so a lot of people have taken that out. They just don't give a shit. And then we have the consumerism that's really pushed, all of us in society to want to have that new car and that new house and all these nice things. And it's really nice to enjoy those things. But if you have to enjoy them at the expense of others, then that's kind of unethical and shitty.
I couldn't agree more.
So,
well, and then going back to that scientific competition, if two guys are trying to solve the cure to cancer and one of them beats them, if the guy's worth his salt and he's got big boy pants on, he's going to celebrate the success of the other and join in and say, okay, this is what you've learned, now I'm going to build on that or whatever. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's different than crony capitalism where it's step on somebody to get higher. Okay, the reason I wanted to contact you, for some reason, I was just fascinated with this subject of identity, and it has to do with a guy named Mark Manson wrote a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and it just really resonated with me. And one of the things that he wrote recently that I made a part of an episode, 2 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes back, was this myth of identity. He was basically saying, when you say, I am a runner, you're placing your identity on that particular activity, maybe not so much to the point where it's the detriment is like when you get too old to run, now you don't know who you are. I mean, that would be an extreme example of somebody just putting all their eggs in that one basket or something. But his proposal was, no, I am a guy who runs versus I am a runner. And I think, I don't know, there's just something to that made me say, you know what, we put too much stock in our identity because in a way it's divisive, because once you say I'm a runner, then you can feel superior to people that don't or whatever, and it becomes, why not just, John Rawls, political philosopher, came up with this thing called the veil of ignorance, and it was a proposal to legislators that when you guys come into a room, guys and gals, and you're about to legislate for the general public, try to come into this room, if you're male and you're white and you're straight or whatever, like me, kind of leave those at the door. Leave your gender, leave your orientation, leave your skin color at the door so that you're thinking on behalf of that which would benefit everybody. Now, obviously, that's ideal, and the debate has been all along, especially as journalism has shifted from Cronkite or people that literally tried hard to stay neutral. Like, you didn't know. I'm supposing, because I wasn't really mature when Cronkite was on, but the old journalism is, ideally, you couldn't tell what this person's bent was, because they were presenting in a way that let you, the listener, decide, as opposed to trying to spin it or sway you. Well, today, that's off the table.
Yeah.
Literally, you have whole networks that are literally overtly trying to sway you. No holds barred. And the reason that they use to justify that is, well, you can't expect me to, I have my biases, you can't expect me to leave them at the door. This John Rawls stuff is not real, or what, and it's not. We understand that you can't just unlearn something the moment you walk into a microphone. It's there. But we would like you to exercise some discipline to keep it to yourself. I mean, you just said earlier on, I don't care what you believe. I'm not trying to change you. I'm not trying to deconvert you. I'm not an apostle or proselytizing for atheism. Mm-hmm. You go knock yourself out as long as it doesn't affect me or hurt me.
Yeah.
And anyway, I guess that being said, I wish that journalists would maybe practice a little more discipline or restraint when it comes to trying to sway me. Secondly, on the issue of identity is, on the other hand, here I am saying it's like, oh, identity is divisive, and just be a human and see each other as connected, and don't let the fact that you're a runner and I'm not, or that you like Dallas Cowboys and I like Philadelphia Eagles, don't let that divide us. We can still respect each other, etc. And in a way, kind of downplaying those identifiers. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, what I've run into, and this is where you get into, like, especially race, where Colbert would joke around, I'm colorblind, And there are people that think that that's a virtue. And as far as saying, they'll quote Martin Luther King, right? I judge you by your character, not by the color of your skin. So this whole, I don't see your color sounds non-racist. It sounds fair and objective. Mm-hmm. But that black person, what I've run into is they would say to me, I kind of need you to recognize the color of my skin and what it represents in this country after 500 years of owning people. Mm-hmm. And secondly, the systemic way in which you're keeping me down because mm-hmm. of my skin color. You bet my skin color matters, and I need you to see my skin color. It's my culture, it's my identity, and I'm not going to leave it at the door, especially when I come to lobby for the cause of that very demographic. Yeah. So anyway, I've thrown out a lot of shit. I don't know if there's a question in there or not, but what are your thoughts?
Okay, so we'll hit on them kind of point by point. So as far as the journalism thing goes, it is terrible to see the decline in what we call journalism today. I was a young child when anchors like Cronkite and the like were on ABC, NBC, and the major news networks and stuff. And we, my grandparents would watch them all the time, and I spent plenty of time watching these anchors try to tell us facts. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That was their job. They told us factual information,
and they had to verify that before they could air it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and if they said something wrong, they had to come on the air and go, "Hey, that's our bad. That was wrong." Mm-hmm. What happened?
You don't see that anymore.
Well, what happened is there used to be laws in place to make sure that that's what happened. That journalism was a medium for factual information, and what happened was entertainment industries lobbied and pushed and got these laws changed to where all they have to do is label their news programs as entertainment, and suddenly any bias or absolute subjectivity can be injected into it and then fed to the American public as news, as a child I grew up thinking of as news. These people are telling me factual information, so therefore these are people I can trust.
Now it could be qualified as propaganda now.
Much of it, on both sides. Sure. And oh God, I hate to even use that phrase after that jackass. But both sides of the aisle in the news media, there's a lot of bias on either side.
It's just kind of the new way of doing things.
There are reputable news sources that give you factual information, and there are news sources which give you entertainment news which still have more factual information than the other entertainment news. So those are things that we definitely should be looking at. And if you quote Fox News to me, I'm going to tell you to go fucking suck a fat dick, man, because that's just ignorant. It's ignorant as shit for to know that there's plenty of websites where I can check how factual they are and see that they are not factual in the least. And so, no, that's not a reputable source. Don't give that to me.
Yeah. People are intellectually lazy. They tell me what to think. And so they like it when somebody comes along and tells them what to think. And secondly, they like it when they're emotional about it because they can get emotional and it feels good. I think there's some kind of vicarious... my life is so dull and boring that when I get fired up about something that may or may not be true, some conspiracy theory, at least it feels alive. It's like a teenager cutting himself. At least I can feel this.
Yeah. People are really, really strange about this. Ever since I was young, I've always wanted to know what was true. I don't want to know what people think or what people have said. I want to know if what's true, and that's why religion failed for me.
Yeah.
It works for other people, awesome, whatever. But it absolutely failed for me because I want to know the truth. And as I sought out the truth, I found that much of what I thought was true was bullshit. Mm-hmm. So, you move on. You keep walking forward. But I think that's something that you have to do in every aspect of your life, especially right now in the atheist and skeptic community. Lack that ability in droves.
Yeah.
The ability to actually look at what is factually true and look for the truth. They're so satisfied with just having half-truths or mistruths, or somebody said that they agree with it and that person is really smart from what we've been told, so I agree with them. It's just...
Well, there is a danger, because I know for me, I have ceded, and that's CEDE, I've given over trust to experts, and because I can't be an expert on everything, and I personally don't know or have done any research whatsoever on climate change, but 98% of scientists says it's true, so I'm going to defer to the experts, and that's okay. But I think what you're referring to, possibly, is that these smart people that we've learned from and we've grown from, and it's like, oh my gosh, what you just said changed my mind, changed my life. I now think differently about that thing. Thank you. However, maybe the next thing that comes out of their mouth, because they're human and fallible, is bullshit. But because I put so much trust, or they've so gained my trust or earned my respect, or maybe even idolize, or they're my hero now, and it gets past, what would otherwise be my skeptical guard, I've let that down, and now anything that comes out of that person's mouth is gospel.
Yeah. It's funny. I look at your wall and I see a couple Sam Harris quotes, and he's one of the ones I'm at right now, because the shit he's done with Charles Murray, having him on the show, and then saying that what Murray has presented is just factual truth, and I'm like, Homeskillet, you're not a geneticist. You're not. That is not your area of expertise.
And neither's Murray. Murray's a 20-something, isn't he?
Yeah, Murray's not either. He just collected data and then misused it for his own purposes. It's clearly like people have done extensive, exhaustive research into his research methodology and everything. Geneticists have offered extensive rebuttals to all the shit he's put forward. Mm-hmm. All that information is available on fucking Google, Sam Harris. On fucking Google, homie. All that information is available there. And before you have him on your show and you go, oh, he's just presenting factual truth, and look like a jackass, maybe you should Google this shit.
Well, I think one of the things that he knows, and we've known about religiosity, and the reason that it's appealing to people is there is already in a human being a desire for the world to mean something, for there to be a trajectory, for there to be a happy ending, and we want it so bad that when somebody comes along and presents it, we're like, yes, because we want it to be true, and that makes us credulous and gullible, and boom, we're in. And as much as Sam is critical of that in the religious spectrum, I suspect there's a lot of people who are so hungry already. There's something pre-existing in me that I want to be true. And a black man will step up and tell me what I want to hear, then I'm just like that person that becomes credulous towards a religious narrative because I need it to be true so bad that I've kind of let my guard down. I don't know if that's what's happening.
Well, the reason what Harris did bothers me so much is because there is already an inherent amount of racial bias within society as a whole, but then within the atheist community, within the skeptic community, it already exists. And to offer any sort of excuse for that or justification for it, especially under the guise of science, is just, it's horrible for a community that supposedly was full of humanists. That's why I was very happy to identify as a member of the atheist community. And now I'm like, I am an atheist, but fuck a community, because holy shit, somebody invited Nazis. So like, no, man, no. Like, if this is what we're doing, like, I'm not with it.
Yeah.
I will do me. I'll do my own thing.
It's sad though, because communities are important, but this whole let's give everybody a voice.
Well, and here's the thing too, and this ties back into what we were wanting to talk about, which is the identity thing. This is not a choice where I'm trying to limit my identity. What's actually happening is I'm letting my identity speak. My identity speaks in the manner that says, I do not share platforms with fucking crazy people. My identity says that is unethical and it is just stupid.
Yeah.
And it's not worth my time. So my identity tells me that.
You know what this reminds me of is earlier, it was just off subject, but I was asking about your writing, and you said I'm experimenting with fiction. And you shared, and this is straight out of Stephen King's book as far as on writing, is let the characters speak. Don't you get in trouble when you predetermine, or you just end up bad writing. Let that character become its own entity, even within your own imagination, because you're the one writing. So to leave that at the door, and in a way, what I just saw a parallel with you saying, look, yeah, my community is marching to this step. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to let my identity speak and become its own voice, not groupthink or the safety in numbers or my desire to be right. I'm okay with being wrong, and I wish you were, because if you were, you might have some eyes wide open to the wrongness that you're now espousing.
Yeah. It's I appreciate anyone that decides to go their own way, to do their own thing, to identify as themselves rather than part of a larger whole. I also have a duty as a human being who cares about the rest of humanity to look at other people's identities. And their identities are not just their skin color or anything like that. It is it's the environment you grew up in. It is your race, your ethnicity. It is your whole culture. Your identity is so many things.
Right.
My identity as a white male in this country, a straight white male in this country, is not threatened or under attack.
No. It's your world.
Yeah. Everything is built to my advantage right now.
Right.
So
it has been for centuries.
I have a duty to recognize that. And so when a person of color comes to me, or a person of any other ethnic background, or a person of a lower social standing than me comes to me and says, look at this, I have an obligation to look at it from their experience, their perspective, what they are having to go through, and understand that is shaping how they make decisions and who they choose to align with and what they choose to do. That is shaping their identity, and that is going to reflect in all of their lives, in pretty much every aspect of their lives, except for the few times where we absolutely have to put on some sort of mask. Anytime you put on a mask, like let's say to get a job, that mask is going to fall off eventually during your job time. Yeah. So, at some point, it's like I know I'm not going to advance where I work because I work for Amazon. And I tell my managers straight up to their face, I feel like I work for the enemy because you're destroying society slowly. Yeah. And it's horrible what you're doing. So I'm not looking to advance or help you achieve this goal.
In fact, I'm out of here as soon as I possibly can.
Yeah, and so.
Well, but go back to where you're going with you're a white straight male and and you're talking to a person. You seem to be implying, Casper, that you might have blind spots.
I think we all have blind spots.
Of course. I mean, that's by being willing to listen to someone with a different perspective. I think what you're saying is, this is what I see, but my perspective could be skewed. You might have a perspective that I have not seen, so please do me the favor and honor me with your perspective so that I might be able to, crawl inside your head for a second and get it.
Yeah. A good example would be a lot of people will look at a lot of young black males who have embraced thug culture, what most people would want to label as thug culture, and they want to denigrate them for that and act like they're terrible people when most of them are not bad people at all. That's their culture. That's the culture that they have been raised in, but you see amazing things coming. I'm a huge fan of hip-hop music. There's an artist, Joyner Lucas. He's got a video called I'm Not Racist. I recommend everybody watch this video. It's an amazing video about just two people sharing perspectives. And it touches on so many things that people just don't really want to accept and think about.
Yeah.
With all due respect, I don't have pity for you black niggas. That's the way I feel. Screaming Black Lives Matter, all the black guys rather be deadbeats than pay your bills. Yelling nigga this and nigga that. Call everybody nigga and get a nigga mad. As soon as I say nigga, then everyone react and wanna swing at me and call me racist cause I ain't black. Well, pound that then. Talking about slavery like you was around back then. Like you was picking cotton off the fucking ground back then. Like you was on the plantation getting down back then. Alright, look. I see a black man aiming his gun, but I'd rather see a black man claiming his son. And I don't mean just for one day and you done. I mean, you still trapped in a rut. And I work my ass off and pay my taxes for what? So you can keep living on free government assistance, food stamps for your children, but you still trying to sell them for some weed and some liquor or a fucking babysitter while you party on the road cause you ain't got no fucking goals? You already late. You motherfuckers need to get your damn priorities straight. Wait. It's like you proud to be fake, but you lazy as fuck. And you rather sell drugs and get a job and be straight. And then you turn around and complain about the poverty rate. Fuck out of my face. You can't escape problems. You could pray for some change, but can't break a dollar. Got nobody else to blame, so you blame Donald. They fucked the world with a Make America Great condom. My voice been back. I'm not racist. My sister's boyfriend's black. I'm not racist. My sister-in-law's baby cousin Tracy got a brother and his girlfriend's black. My head's in the cloud. Heard there's not enough jobs for all the men in your house. Maybe we should build a wall to keep the Mexicans out. Or maybe we should send them all to the ghetto for now. I'm not racist. And I never lied, but I think there's a disconnect between your culture and mine. I worship the Einsteins, study the Steve Jobs, but you ride Tupac's dick like he was a fucking god. Oh my God. And all you care about is rapping and stunting and being ratchet. And that's the nigga within you. Music rot in your brain and slowly start to convince you. Then you let your kids listen and then the cycle continues. Blame it all on the menu. Blame it on those drinks. Blame it on everybody except for your own race. Blame it on white privileges. Blame it on white kids and just blame it on white citizens. Aim at the vice president. Bunch of class clowns. Niggas kneeling on the field, that's a flag down. How dare you try to make demands for this money? You gon' show us some respect. You gon' stand for this country, nigga. I'm not racist. I'm just prepared for this type of war. I heard Eminem's rap at the awards. Who's he fighting for? Y'all can take that motherfucker too. He ain't white no more. It's like you wanna be so famous. You'll do anything for attention and a little payment. I can't take you nowhere without people pointing fingers. Pants hanging off your ass. You ain't got no home training. Put your fucking pants up, nigga. Put that suit back on. Take that do-rag off. Take that gold out your mouth. Quit the pitiful stuff. And then maybe police and stop killing you fucks. Yo, what the fuck? I'm not racist. It's like we're living in the same building but split into 2 floors. I'm not racist. But there's 2 sides to every story. I wish that I knew yours. I wish that I knew yours. I'm not racist. I swear. With all disrespect, I don't really like you white motherfuckers. That's just where I'm at. Screaming all lives matter is a protest to my protest. What kind of shit is that? And that's one war you'll never win. The power in the word nigga is a different sin. We shouldn't say it, but we do, and that's just what it is. But that don't mean that you can say it just cause you got nigga friends. Nigga. That word was originated for you to keep us under. And when we use it, we know that's just how we greet each other. And when you use it, we know there's a double meaning under. And even if I wasn't picking cotton physically, that don't mean I'm not infected by the history. My grandmama was a slave, that shit gets to me, and you ain't got no motherfucking sympathy, you pussy nigga. I'm sorry, you can never feel my life. Tryna have faith, but I never feel alright. It's hard to elevate when this country's ran by whites, judging me by my skin color and my blackness. Tryna find a job, and ain't nobody call me back yet. Now I gotta sell drugs and put food in my cabinet. You crackers ain't slick, this is all a part of your tactics. Don't talk about no motherfucking taxes when I ain't making no dough. You think you know everything, but you don't. You wanna copy our slang and everything that we know. Try to steal black culture and make it your own. Whoa. Fuck, I'm exhausted. I can't even drive without the cops trying to start shit. I'm tired of this systematic racism bullshit. All you do is false shit. This the shit that I'm false with. And you don't know shit about my people. That's what bothers you. You don't know about no fried chicken or no barbecue. You don't know about the two-step or no loose change. You don't know about no 2 chains or no Kool-Aid. You don't know. And even though Barack was half as black, you hated President Obama. I know that's a fact. You couldn't wait to get him out and put a cracker back. And then you gave us Donald Trump, and I was payback for that. I'm not racist. I never lied, but I know there's a disconnect between your culture and mine. Yeah, I praised Tupac like he was a fucking god. He was fighting for his life way before he fucking died. Nigga, die, nigga. And all you care about is money and power and being ugly, and that's the cracker within you. Hatred all in your brain and slowly start to convince you. Then you teach it to your children until the cycle continue. Blame it on Puerto Rico, blame it on OJ, blame it on everybody except for your own race. Blame it on black niggas and blame it on black citizens. Aim at the black businesses. I ain't saying I'm innocent, but I might be any day now. Treating everybody how you want in any way how. I swear North Korea about to bomb us any day now. And now I'm ducking every time I hear a fucking plane now. Shit. You know I make a lot of sense, but you just can't admit it. When Eminem went against Trump, that was the illest. Cause even though he's white, he let us know he's standing with us. I'm not racist, but I cry a lot. You don't know what it's like to be in a frying pot. You don't know what it's like to mind your business and get stopped by the cops. And I know if you about to die or not. You worry about your life, so you take mine. I love you, but I fucking hate you at the same time. I wish we could trade shoes, or we could change lives, so we can understand each other more, but that'll take time. I'm not racist. It's like we living in the same building, but split into both sides. I'm not racist. But there's 2 sides to every story, and now you know mine. Can't erase the scars with a bandage. Hoping maybe we can come to an understanding. Agree to disagree, we can have an understanding. I'm not racist.
What's his name again?
Joyner Lucas, Joyner Lucas.
Lucas.
Yep. It's an amazing video. But it's things like that. It's you have to understand that especially for straight white men, and for straight white women, and women do have it worse than men in this country and throughout the world. That is a factual truth. Yeah. So not to downplay that at all, but white women do still, straight white women.
There are people under them on the food chain.
Yeah, so they do have a definite rung up on the ladder, and we have to just take a step back and say, I can't just say, oh, well, this is what you grew up with, so, you shouldn't be complaining. It's not that simple.
No,
it's
nothing about this is simple. You might have grown up with that, but your mom and dad grew up with something different, and your grandparents grew up with something way different, and your great-grandparents grew up way, way different, and all of that throughout down the line has created a whole system that has just screwed you over completely. Mm-hmm. There's nothing shameful or wrong about admitting that. There's no guilt in that. I didn't do that, but to admit that and then let that inform my consciousness in whose words I promote, mm-hmm. and the things that I say and I promote and the ideas that I espouse and the people whom I'm trying to lift up. I'm in a position where my voice
can do good, to raise the voices of others, and to share the message of others that people aren't listening to for any number of reasons, because they don't know about them, never heard of them, they're not exposed to them, and they're not seeking them out like I am. I'm actively seeking out people to give me a different perspective on everything that I don't already know about, with a long history of just studying all sorts of different things. There's plenty of things I already know about. I don't have to talk to Nazis to understand Nazism. I've been there, done that, not going back. So we don't have to have conversations. Yeah. So I don't think anybody does. There's history books, man. Just read. Just read some books, and you'll go, okay, yeah.
So I think with some of these things where there's kind of this marginal group or this extreme group or whatever, sometimes there is, let's say, 1% of their ideology is redemptive. Something, one little remnant of it is like something that, okay, we'll give you that. That's truth. That'd be beneficial for society. But 99% of what you're saying would actually make things so much worse that it by far cancels out the little good that 1% would do. And so as a result, we don't have to listen to you at all, even though 1% of what you're saying is actually true.
Well, that 1% is almost always available somewhere else.
Exactly.
It's like I tell people about religion. I'm like, you find all these things to believe in, and these truths and stuff.
But Casper, Christianity built hospitals.
Oh yeah, and they also built torture chambers. So.
But the point is that it doesn't take Christ to build a hospital.
True. It doesn't. It takes hands and money and
hearts,
people,
care.
Yeah, people wanting to do it.
Which I want to highlight here, because earlier on you kind of started out saying, "Hey guys, the time is of the essence. We're in trouble, and so I don't have time to mince words." And in some ways, it's your care. I mean, like you could mind your own business. I mean, and it's exhausting. I mean, one of the reasons that you stopped debating with religion is because it's like, I've had my fill of that. And now, but you're still in there. You're still in the ring. You're still in the conversation. You're still got a seat at the table. And I think your voice is valuable. And you're using, like you said, your white, straight, male, cis voice to, push up or punch up and help people mitigate their blind spots. Yeah, it feels hopeless, but in a way, I know the full circle thing for me with nihilism is I can just go, fuck it, nothing matters. And then I find myself in bed, not wanting to get out, and that's no way to live either. And so in a way, I think I come full circle, where I say to the universe, fuck you, to the human race, fuck you, and y'all go to hell in a handbag, because I don't care, I'm not responsible, I don't have a Messiah complex anymore, fuck all of you. And then I find myself alone and bored. And then I come back and say, all right, here's how I am going to fuck you. Is I'm going to get in the game, and I have less fucks to give, so I'm bolder in what I'm going to say.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it could ever be said that I've tried to hold back on my thoughts or ideas from the moment I started sharing them on a larger platform.
Let me say this though: you may not hold back, but I think there's embedded in there is an implication that I could be wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's that. You're willing to hold back, but right now, as of right now, this is what I know and believe, and until you show me otherwise, I'm bringing it full sell. I mean, I'm bringing it.
Yeah, and I try to avoid bringing anything that I can't back up with factual information.
Thank you.
Because that's the whole point. When I say there is systemic racism in the United States, I can cite literally hundreds of studies that prove it.
Yeah.
Over decades.
Did you read Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow?
I'm actually currently about halfway through it.
God damn, that changed my life. And then she came and spoke at Vanderbilt, and it was just. Fortunately, I don't think all 4 of my kids, but I had a couple of my kids there, and it was an eye opener for them because again, we're white. Mm-hmm. This is the water we're swimming in. I'm not kidding when I say I pass a guy, he's a black guy, and he's selling a contributor in Nashville, which is, for those listening, it's kind of a newspaper that they sell at the corner, and they're kind of homeless. But this guy, sweet guy, I've been driving there for 7 years, and I drive a piece of shit car with a cracked windshield and everything, but I'm still white male, and I'm kind of dressed khaki and polo when I go to work. And I didn't realize it at first what he was saying, but he'd see me drive by and he'd say, "Hey, easy money, it's your world." And I thought he was just being an encourager, and he is to some degree, but he's also saying, white, straight male it's your world, and you run it. And that's all I'm saying is, it's like when it comes to identity and identity politics and asking people to leave their shit, or their identity at the door, no, I need to hear your voice, because I'm so naive as a white, straight male. I learn something on this show almost every week, but there was a woman on a few weeks ago. I can't remember the details, but I was like, oh, I had an epiphany in real time. It's almost like having an orgasm on the air, a surprise orgasm. It's an explosion in the brain, and I realize, oh, I'm 52, and I've always saw this wrong.
Yeah.
And those are gold, because I'm a stretched individual at that point, and I'm a broader thinker.
Yeah, I feel like the moment we can ask everyone to come to the table without their identity is the moment when we are all treated as equals and are all standing on an equal playing field.
Yeah, where society itself is equal access and opportunity.
And until that happens, it's unethical and wrong to ask people to not come to the table with our identity if that identity is been under attack. Yeah. If their very identity has been used to attack them as a human being, and you ask them to leave that at the door, no. And you can't say the same for straight white males, especially straight white male Christians. You can't say that you've never been the target of attack. Your identity has never put you in a place where you're under attack.
Are you saying the war on Christmas isn't real?
Oh my goodness.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. I just kind of wanted this to be a little update with you. I appreciate your thinking and your intellect and your perspective. You're well-read, and that's kind of what we're saying, is that you expose yourself. I think about a rock in the river. The first time it lands in the river, it's all scratchy and edgy and pointy. But after a couple of years of being in there, because water is no respecter of space, it literally buffs that thing on every side that it can reach. So by the time you've got this river pebble that's just smooth, and I think by exposing ourselves to different perspectives, not just like one side, like the echo chamber, and that's ideal. I'm not great at it either. I'm not great, because honestly, like you said, there are some places where I say, like you, I don't have to read a Nazi textbook. I don't. And for me, I think when I'm debating Christians, or if and when, I rarely ever do, but they used to say, well, you're unwilling to consider that you're wrong, or you're unwilling to hear me out. And I want to say to them, I believed it more than you did. I know the Bible better than you did. So no, you can't accuse me of being one-sided or whatever. Here's the difference. You haven't thought what I'm asking you to think. I've already thought what you're asking me to think. Anyway, point being, I appreciate the roundness with which you try to bring to the table. And at the same time, somebody who's normally that open-minded and that amiable is usually soft around the edges, but you're kind of both. Like you're rough around the edges, you speak your mind, and it's poignant and sometimes pointed, and yet it's this is the thing about whenever I saw, what you're saying about people think that these guys are thugs. Well, if you knew them, they've got big hearts. And I think that that's true of you, is that when some people might experience you, even physically, you're tatted up and down, you got piercings all over your face, you got blue hair, and people might think, well, this guy, but your heart is huge, and that comes out.
Yeah, I want humanity to do well in the long term. And I also believe that because I only have one life, the only sort of afterlife I will ever have is the impact that I can make on society as a whole and people in this world while I'm here.
That's it.
So making an impact matters to me.
Okay.
And
because that's your immortality project.
Yeah, that's the only sort of anything close to immortality I'll have. You know, the legacy you leave matters. If anything matters.
Yeah.
If you choose to accept that anything matters, the legacy you leave should matter.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I wish our fucking president understood.
Oh, he doesn't understand shit.
The legacy you fucking leave matters, man. And this is not going to stop with you. It's going to be your kids and your kids' kids and your kids' kids' kids. Because, you're shitting on so many people. And
well, we were talking about short-sightedness. Worst case of myopia I've ever seen in a human being.
Yeah, yeah.
So on the way out, let's say one last thing. What's something that I should care about right now, in your opinion, either be excited about or be afraid of, or both?
I'm kind of both concerned and excited with the state of our government in the United States right now. Simply because we're seeing horrible abuse of power, but at the same time, we're seeing people who should always fucking step up and do the right thing to step up and speak out and to say this is not right. This is not what's supposed to be going on, people. And
this is scary because this is how monarchies or autocracies form. These are the steps. We're textbook following our path right into that.
Yeah, and we have to speak out. We have to step up and say this can't happen.
Yeah.
Not like this. I like I said, I don't necessarily agree with the structure of our government. I have a very socialist bent. On a scale, it's way socialist. So,
me too.
So I'm not a big fan of our government, but I don't want to see it outrightly fail to the point where we're having chaos in the streets, because that's not good for everyone. That's bad for everyone.
Well, I think what you're saying is, okay, I'm not a big fan of this, but one redemptive thing about our current government is a little bit of balance of powers, and that's being eroded.
Yeah. Yeah, and it started eroding, as you brought up at the beginning of the show with our news. Our
free press.
Our free press is supposed to keep everybody
accountable.
In check,
yeah.
And they're not doing that, and then they're not being allowed to do that. So shit,
that's some scary shit.
We should all feel threatened right now. Honestly, we should all feel threatened.
And not compartmentalize that or bury our heads in the sand.
Because whether you love this country, whether you disagree with the government, any of that, if you want to see everything you have fall to shit, just keep doing what you're doing.
Which is nothing. And it's hard to know what to do. I mean, how much is like yelling on Facebook? I mean, how effective is that? We don't really know, but it's better than nothing.
I mean, we're starting to see some turnout at the for what voting has gone on, and that's good. So, maybe we can see some effective change. Yeah. It's going to take people getting out and doing things, and that includes probably, hopefully, putting some of our fucking government officials in prison.
Yeah,
and not one of these cushy little fucking federal country club prisons like Big Boy Prison. They should go where I went.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Casper, thanks for coming on, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, I enjoy speaking. I'm actually going to be on with Trav Mamone tomorrow.
Cool. Love me some Trav. Trav's been on my show. I've been on his.
Yeah, Trav's good people.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, you have a good day.
Hey, so that's my talk with Casper Rigsby. He's also Jason Rigsby on Facebook, if you want to reach out to him. Casper's his nickname, much like Cass is my nickname. So Cass and Casper chatting around the microphones. Listen, I want to reach out and give you an opportunity to join us on the weekend of October 12th through the 14th. We have reserved a 3-story cabin in the Smoky Mountains, East Tennessee, for a retreat with Everyone's Agnostic listeners and former guests. And we've got about 25 people coming, maybe room for 5 or 6 more. It's about, it's exactly $180 to come. And you can write me at midgley.cass, midgley.cass @gmail, or you can just go straight to the everyone'sagnostic.com website and click on donate, and there's a PayPal link there where you can pay your $180 and write me or something, and we'll sign you up. That's coming up. It's going to be fun. Not a whole lot of agenda, like a church retreat or something where it's packed with like pressure to grow up in the Lord or something. We're just going to hang out. There's a hot tub, and the evening temperatures are supposed to be in the low 60s, high 50s. There's a swimming pool in the bottom floor, indoor swimming pool. We're going to play games. We're going to talk. We're going to hang out. We're going to hike and bike and eat and drink and be merry. And if you can join us, that'd be great. All right. Have a good week, everybody. You know how much love we have for each other. Keep it up. Keep on keeping on. Good night.